Joining us right now is Democratic Senator from Rhode Island, Jack Reed. Senator Reed serves on the Banking Committee, the Armed Services Committee, the Appropriations Committee, and it's great to see you
Thank you,
in
Andrew.
person right now. And we've been sort of flying through so many headlines, which you've just heard about, from the comments that the president made about Netanyahu to the idea that Todd Blanche is going to be he's going to be the new AG. So I don't know where you want to start. What do you think of that?
AG. I want to start with
the current AG.
Permanent, yeah.
Current issues. Well, the issue in the Middle East is that the president began at the urging of Netanyahu without a goal, without a real plan for extended warfare, and despite the advice of many advisors. And now we're in a situation where he is just trying to find some place to land.
And so what do you want him to do?
Well, I think the attack was wrong in the first place, but we have to deal with what's happened on the ground. I think the only thing you can hope for is to spend time devoted to negotiating a really secure nuclear deal. I don't think it'll be as good as the JCPOA, which President Obama got. I think you've got to open up the strait immediately. There might have to be some type of quasi-jurisdictional sort of panel with no power between Iran, Oman, and others. But effectively, you have to open up the panel, and then the channel rather. And then I think the other factor is the Iranians will demand reparations or release of sanctions. So we'll be in a much worse place than we were.
Maybe a cynical political question.
Yeah.
Is there any level at which you think the Democrats want this to go on I don't want to say as long as possible, but as long as possible ahead of the midterms, because invariably it means that inflation is going to be higher, it means that oil prices are going to be higher, and it gives the party a argument around the midterms?
Well, I can speak personally, no. I think we want to end this. We have thousands and thousands of military personnel in the area, and the possibility of casualties is not zero. It is significant. We can't tolerate that. But also, that is not the major threat we face in the world. We have to reorient our military forces out of that area and be prepared to have the flexibility to respond to China or to Russia and Europe.
Right.
So from a military standpoint, I want it to end. From a personal standpoint, I want it to end because I don't want to risk American lives.
Can you see yourself voting in favor of the confirmation of Blanche as the new Attorney General?
You have to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure he'll come by, and I've had discussions with him. One of the things that really interferes with all of these nominees is Trump's personal behavior, in which he insists that people do not follow the law, they follow him. And an attorney general has to follow the law and the Constitution and be able to tell the president, you can't do that. And one of the problems I think we had is no one is able in this administration to tell the president, don't do that.
Which laws did he tell people not to follow?
Well, I can tell you the first day he was in office, he dismissed all of the inspector generals. That requires, under the law, a 30-day notice to Congress, and course, he ignored that, and the Attorney General didn't say anything about that. It's repeatedly ignoring laws, not just the President, the Department of Defense. There are requirements to give the Committee on Armed Services information. They refuse. They don't do it.
A blanket statement about just violating the law, though, and you're talking about specific
almost
things.
Everything. Well, even the president himself, when he was interviewed once, he said, you know, what do you follow? He said, well, it's my own morality.
Well, if laws are broken, if laws are broken, he's got problems.
No, he took the constitutional oath to enforce the laws, and he disregards them every moment.
So those were your two examples, though.
Those are just two.
I'd like some really big ones for if you're going to say someone just doesn't obey the law at all.
Well, first of all, the Constitution requires wars to be authorized by the United States Congress.
When was the last time that passed?
George W. Bush, who came to us.
Right.
I voted against the Iraq War.
You got to get through Biden, and you got to get through Obama and Biden. Then.
But you asked when the last one was.
Right,
it was George W. Bush who came and asked. And frankly, a lot of what Biden and Obama were doing were the continuation of efforts that were launched in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Some of them, but not all of them.
Not all of them. No, there is an issue.
But you weren't calling Obama lawless or Biden lawless. Or
no, but I don't think that they were lawless. I think they had a respect for the Constitution, the role of president. He doesn't.
But now we're in the area of opinion now. But I got you. And we've had a lot of
when there's a very clear law that says you have to notify Congress and wait 30 days, and you don't, that's not opinion.
Okay.
That's just ignoring the law. That was day one, and every day since then.
Where do you land on this settlement with the IRS?
It's
given
ridiculous.
that we're discussing laws.
It's ridiculous. I mean, it's like a mayor in Tammany Hall saying, "I just got this deal with the city that's going to give me a lot of money, and it's going to ensure me from no prosecution going forward on my taxes." It's ridiculous. This should have been decided by a judge, not an agreement between the Attorney General, who, by the way, he might have said, if you treat me right, I could make you the permanent Attorney General. That's the cynical self-dealing that goes on constantly here.
Do you think that's what happened?
Oh, absolutely.
You're suggesting that Todd Blanche was offered the job in exchange for settling the case?
I'm suggesting that there is an atmosphere created by President Trump in which you help me, I'll help you. And it doesn't have to be stated. It's just, I think, implied by everything that's done almost every day.
You think it's the litmus test?
Pardon?
You think it's the litmus test before?
I think it's a litmus test of how loyal are you to me, yes. Rather than, what I've observed from presidents is that, yes, the Constitution, you have to obey the Constitution. I have to obey the Constitution. It's, you follow me.
Okay, so I'm going to throw out another name. Bill Pulte.
Yeah.
Is going to be the acting national intelligence officer. What do you make of that?
He's unqualified. The statute itself calls for the nominee, and he's not the nominee, he's acting, but the nominee has to be one with extensive experience in national security. He has none. So the president is appointing someone who is a political operative for him. He's weaponized the FHFA. He's gone after people like Governor Cook of the Federal Reserve. He's gone after some of my colleagues. And you don't need that in the intelligence community.
What do you make of the argument that under Biden there was a weaponization of the system as well, and that we are now into this sort of, not disagreeing that there may be some retribution taking place now, that the president's actually said that aloud in the past. The question is whether we're now into a whole new era of politics where whoever's in power is using that power in a way that...
Well, I think there's no comparison between what President Trump has done. The siege of Jay Powell.
People would say the other way.
Yeah, I know. But look, ask Jay Powell, the independent and appointed by President Trump initially, reappointed by President Obama. He endured, and is still enduring, years of punishment, threats of legal criminal charges, etc. That was not pronounced. Here's where we are, though, and I think, Andrew, your question is right on target. We have to make a remarkable change because there's always the notion of, okay, you did it to me, now when we get in power, we're going to do it to you. And that, I think, is going to bring down significantly our government and our approach to government.
Senator, I want to thank you.
Sure.
For being here, or maybe we should thank you for allowing us to be here. So thank you.
No, it's your house, the people's house.
It's a pleasure.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. We own this place.
You do.
Awesome.
Tiny
You're paying for
pieces
it.
of it. When we come back,